I want to talk to Michelle, who is calling to us from New York. Michelle, you are live on Truth Wanted. What's up?
Yeah, hi guys. How you guys doing?
Doing okay. Good, Michelle. Thank you for calling into Truth Wanted today. I know, I believe I talked to you on Talk Heathen before, so cool to hear you, that you've come on to here.
With who did we talk? Christy Powell.
That's right. That's right.
A fine host indeed.
A fine host indeed. I'll agree with you on that. What do you want to talk to us about today?
Yeah, Jamie, what do you think about? And I think, Jamie, you're going to be invested in this idea. And I wanted to talk about two things, but I wanted to kind of the second thing is the first thing is gonna bleed into the second thing, and it's gonna overarch, and it's gonna be great.
Okay.
I wanted to talk about state-church separation tonight's subject matter. But can theists vote with a biased vote, or, well, I guess no vote is truly biased, right? I mean, but can theists not vote their theological stance or opinions? Like, can they vote with a clear, open mind, and just their mind, not their hearts?
Sure.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, there are examples of people who hold religious beliefs that run counter to some of the things that they do. There's actually a good number of biblical scholars who are practicing Christians or other religions, but then use their academia and go, yeah, no, a lot of the stuff in the books that form the basis of the religion I believe in are actually deeply flawed and philosophically bankrupt and that kind of thing. So, I have people in mind on that. But we can't ever truly remove our own biases. All we can hope is that people are aware of their biases, like know where your biases lie and try and at least acknowledge them, if not attempt to remove them. But we're human. Like, belief is not something you choose. It's something that just happens. You either believe something or don't, and belief informs action, voting being an action. So I trust that some theists will have the critical thinking faculties to be able to be introspective enough to recognize their own biases and mitigate them if possible. Do I think all Christians can do that? No, because I don't think all people can do that, and that's what I say on that. What do you think, Dan?
I think this is a very dismissive question of people at large, because okay, take an organization like the Catholic Church, right? I would say out of all the organized religions in the world, they're up there with the most of the organized, right? As far as like what everyone's supposed to believe and stuff, right? And you still see divisions in party lines on what Catholics vote on, right? Maybe not as strongly as you do per se between like evangelical groups versus other groups, but like there's still definitely a division. Like, not everybody's theological beliefs intersect with their politics, and it may be because they don't actually fully realize that. But like, I think a lot of people are more practical than you might expect. The internet kind of clouds our vision on this, because especially our show, because we talk to people with all kinds of worldviews, right? But by and large, religion in America, to a lot of people, at least to the ones who say they believe in God but don't go to church every week, may not actually impact their political opinions as much as one might assume. Rather, I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, because it definitely does, right? But I don't know. I'm not convinced that we shouldn't trust a Christian to vote properly because of their Christianity. I mean, like, that's kind of a stretch to me. I don't know. That's not enough data to really tell me one way or the other.
There's certain prominent public figures, past and present, who are known to be religious, but their standpoints and how they acted and what they said seems to run contrary to the sort of common belief. Stephen Colbert is a practicing Catholic, but he's like one of the most progressive TV show hosts I've seen. So unless he's lying through his teeth every night,
that's right. By the way, I'm not saying that a figure like Stephen Colbert is consistent.
No.
Okay, no, I don't think so. I think if he was more consistent Catholic, he wouldn't have the opinions that he does. But that's America, right?
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it. You can just kind of make shit up and just kind of go with it, and that's really what it means to live in this country. I think it's just kind of do what you want, for better or worse. You know.
The running gag between myself and Forrest is he really would like if he could go back and debate anybody or question anybody. He'd be Rogers, Mr. Rogers, not Steve
Mr.
Rogers.
Yeah,
because he was a Presbyterian,
right?
Like
Presbyterian minister.
Yeah,
but
he was also the chillest, grooviest dude who ever chilled and grooved.
Yeah.
So, and apparently
he
that
had
right.
values. He had a sense of values. He had a values for what kids needed and what people needed. And I think that he was able to translate that into his theology. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But he's also a very educated man, a very studied man. And, like there's other material factors at play here. Like religion is yes. Can it be an indicator? Absolutely. But let's not make the mistake as atheists and define it as the only variable by which we should consider somebody to be like smart or capable of reason. Okay. Cause like that kind of rhetoric that's what gives us a bad name. It really does. But those are my thoughts on that, Michelle. What do you think?
Which is why, see, I don't think the way I asked the question or formed the question was dismissive. Like, maybe if I said, why don't Christians vote bias or something better than maybe just their dogmatic theological fundamental beliefs, but I said, can they? So, but in that regard, yeah, you're right, Dan, and so are you, Jamie. You had some great points, but which leads me into my next thought. And Jamie, I know you have a lot to say about this because I've heard you say a lot about this very subject, coming from a country and hailing from a country that has long since had a church-state kind of thing, official church at the head of their state, and
a monarchy too, yeah.
Yeah, and you're very much invested in that. And one time I heard you actually were so enthralled with the conversation of one night's show. I don't know if you remember this. You actually called into the show to comment on a couple of different things. And you had said, I don't know if you said I can't wait, but you said one day in the future, and I think it'll be a better future, something like in that regard. But like when people will go to cathedrals and look at the stained glass and the iconography, in the books, and we'll say, oh, that's what people used to believe a long time ago when they were dumber Neanderthals. And now we've evolved past all of that. And I'm just like, I understand maybe you're more invested in that kind of a rigorous thought and like a more of a direct kind of thinking and to go down those lines because you do come from a country that really up to is still enthralled and entrusted within a church state kind of thing.
I mean, kind of. We have I can't I'd have to get the numbers up, but England as a whole is a more secular society than America, and that's one of the reasons I bring it up. It's like, isn't it crazy that I come from a country with a national church, with a state church, and where our national anthem has the word God in the title and all this kind of stuff. Right. But most people treat religion like a hobby. Yeah. Like it doesn't come into our politics as much as it does here in the US. And part of the reason for that is, weirdly, because we have a lot more religious representation in our population. We have so many more Sikhs and Muslims and Jews and other kinds of denominations. And also, we know what sectarian violence looks like. Yeah. Like, we've seen what people who believe God on their side do in living memory. And so there is an intrinsic understanding that overt religious dogma can be dangerous. Yeah. So the state, the church, the state religion is so mild.
This is what's interesting, Jamie. This is a hot take, but if you wanted to make the case against the separation of church and state, I would cite the UK in that argument if I was to make that case, because in my opinion, you tell me this is true or not as a citizen, right? Because it is so integrated, the church into the state of the UK, right? It was forced on some level to be secular. And what I mean by that is it had to serve its citizens, which come from all walks of life, different beliefs, different structures. And so because its integration into its government, it ends up becoming the sort of, Christianity as a hobby in some sense, right?
Yeah.
It's not a requirement in the same way that, I don't know, the kind of religious sort of expectations here in America. Am I making sense on that? I think that there's something to that.
It's also that we've had it for longer. The way it came about was a sort of a double act of rebellion. First of all, it was Protestantism, and then that became Church of England when Henry VIII's like, I'm the Pope now.
Sure.
And so. And we had the Civil War, which was, again, it was a Catholic versus Protestant thing, and Cromwell and all that. Like it's one of the problems within America being such a young country compared to a lot of the rest of the world is that we've kind of done it all. We've had all the wars, we've had all the fights, we've had all the religious schisms, and it's kind of just settled down into a sort of melange now. And that's why Islamophobia is the big thing in the UK, because it's like, who doesn't like a nice heavy dollop of racism with their religious bigotry? And it really is about Islamic culture and race rather than the Islamic religion. So again, I can't speak for the whole of the UK. I can only go from my own observations. I wouldn't recommend that we instigate a state religion now. If you could go back 500 or 600 years, which is, again, twice as long as this country's been a country, maybe it would have worked out the same way. But I, again, can't say that that's going to be the case. So, yeah.
I just think it's fascinating because it's like you just don't have the problems that the things that we would worry about, right, in a church and state not being separated, you just don't have in the UK. You just really don't. It doesn't manifest that way, which is I don't know. Something to think about. But anyway, that's kind of a tangent here, Michelle. I don't know. What do you think?
Here's one thought to posit, and this is to Jamie again, Dan. Sorry to X-nay you out, but you can definitely
go ahead
on it if you want to be in your show and doll. So Jamie, the blonde limey, don't you, even though you did you remember espousing that belief, that opinion that I shared with you?
Not quite so. We will evolve past it. I think that's a little bit harsh on current believers because, like we were saying, you can be a perfectly rational, reasonable, intelligent person and still be a theist. But yes, I think the model that I was looking at was how sort of Japan treats religion, in that they have several that are sort of culturally appropriate, but they don't stick to one, and it is far more cultural and secular. Like, people go to the shrine at New Year, but they have Christian weddings and Buddhist funerals, but they believe in Shinto, but they don't actually believe there's a real spirit in their coffee table, but they act as if it is, because it means that they're going to look after their coffee table. And so the religious practices that permeated the country, and they were vehemently religious, like, again, 500-600 years ago in the 15th century, especially during the Seikoku time where they were separated. They were hunting Christians down and executing them, right? So they did all that, and now it's turned into this is just our culture. Like, we go to the shrine because it's the thing you do. It's like, I celebrate Christmas. I celebrate Christmas even though I don't even know if Christ really lived. But boy, oh boy, does I like me some turkey and presents and family and love and the message of togetherness and the sort of secularization and the culturifying of it. And I do like visiting cathedrals. I mean, I did when I was back in England. I went to this wonderful cathedral in North England, and it was just this massive Gothic building, huge buttresses, and it's amazing. And I'm like, wow, they really wanted to impress on you that God is there and God is huge and you better be scared of him. And so that's what I'm hoping for, that we don't erase religion, but we recognize that it's a building block. It was a building block of the culture. It has its place in history, even a place of veneration in some ways. But remove the truth of God from it. Like, God is real and he's an actual person and has actual opinions on where you can put your penis. So, kind of thing.
That's maybe the point that I truly wanted to make about and tie into this second point of mine, is that the one prophecy. Hey, listen, guys, Bible prophecies. Pretty much all of them are for shit. And if you ask me, if I had to chime in on what Jesus' autobiography would be, and the wrong answer only would be, he came once in life. He's not coming again in death, folks. But or he is coming again in death. Wrong answers only. I don't know. Anyway, because I don't think he's coming back anytime soon. Anyway, but don't you think if the Bible says there will always be a remnant of believers, that it's a little more romantic in this if the world continues to have believers in it, at least ones that might even be more open-minded and liberal, but as long as they still hold true some theology and doctrine and sanctity to their belief and the faith, and no matter what it is, like, that's romantic. You know, they're painting with a little bit of a broader brush.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to my response is probably the same as Jamie's. I think the world would be, I don't want to erase all of Christianity and pretend like it didn't happen per se, right? I think that's too broad of a brush. Like, you know, he's talking about Japan. I went to Japan. I saw the Shinto shrines and I saw some of the ceremonies that were done there. There's a real culture that's happening there, a real living history that happens there that I wouldn't want to take away from somebody. What I am wanting to take away is this belief that some people are morally superior than others. I want to take away this ability that people can use to oppress other people, right, through their beliefs. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that Jamie and I think are both interested in, right? I can appreciate the construction of a cathedral just as much as the next Christian, you know, but I can do that in a very secular lens. I don't need to believe in a God to appreciate that. So, you know, I'm not here to eradicate culture per se. I'm here to help with people's cognitive biases and to help them discern what true things are. Sure, but you know, I think you know, you get to a real bad place if you start talking about, you know, erasing people from existence. Yeah. That's not really, or people's ideas from existence. That's not really what I'm after.
Yeah.
You know, not a great look, I think.
Yeah, appreciating things in the historical context is fine. I don't have to agree with the policies of William the Conqueror to think that Warwick Castle's awesome and cool. So, yeah.
It's like playing Metal Gear Solid. It's like, I think war is bad, but also like the models of the guns and stuff in the game are like really cool.
That's,
you know,
that's so like, Kojima. Like, man, aren't tanks cool? I hate war.
Right. Exactly. So there you go. That's just a side thing here. Anyway, Michelle, anything else you want to add before we let you go?
Guys. No, definitely not. I don't want to add anything. Just that you guys are great and watch the show. Truth Wanted, Talk Either. Are you guys still doing non-for-profits?
Yes, the non-profits is still a flagship show of the ACA. It comes out regularly during the week. Kelly, our backup host, is one of the regulars there and is excellent on it. We've also got people you may recognize like Scott Dickey, Jimmy Jr., and AJ. Also commenting on news, being all topical. Like, I would recommend you watch it.
Yeah, for sure.
Give it a try. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a good one.